Well, brother, I am very excited to share this space with you. You are someone that I attracted into my life. We attracted each other into our lives, but I met you a few years ago now. And I remember the first time I met you, not only was like there a light coming from your beautiful smile, but you were just beaming, dude. And there was a light just coming out of every orifice of your body, dude. And like, I remember wanting to talk to you and get to know you. And since then, we've continued to see each other in many times in the physical, and continue to, hold this brotherhood that we have, which I'm very grateful for. And I just remember you sharing your story with me and just feeling so grateful and inspired by your story and your life and what you have done and where that has led you. And so, as I was thinking about people to have on this podcast, you were one of the first, and so thank you, man. I appreciate you joining me.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate those words. And I just remember us meeting each other at Burning Man. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this dude is so cool. And also, like, the feeling was so mutual in terms of your energy and your heart and just the memories that we've shared over the last couple of years. Each time I feel like I've gotten to spend time with you has been really special for me. So, really appreciate being here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, dude. Me too, man. And so like before we get into like your life's journey, can you just take me into your world right now? Like what are you up to? What are you excited about? What's going on?
Oof, excited about a whole bunch. Right now, over the past 2 years or so, or 16 months, I've been living in what I can perceive as the most beautiful place in the world. I live in Kauai in a small village called Hanalei. About 300 people live here. There's these beautiful mountains I'm around and some of the most world-class surf breaks and just beautiful, beautiful environment. So that's a blessing every day, to be living on an island like this and being surrounded by people who've also chosen to live here. What is going on in my world right now is over the last couple of years, I've been deep into the study of transformation and actually living from the heart. And so there's been this sanctuary that's actually been forming up here in Kauai beautifully. And it's kind of given itself a name called Vital Kauai. So what I've been working on kind of in the background, really haven't shared much with the world yet, but it's all surrounded around helping people really step into full vitality, connecting through sacred intimacy. I have a beautiful partner that we practice tantra with every day. And then also working with nature medicine, the rivers, the oceans, the mountains, and some other things as well. But yeah, this sanctuary that's starting to form here and the community that I've been weaving with here in Kauai has been lighting me up.
Hmm, that's crazy, dude. Thanks for sharing. Like what can you express more about like some of these practices that you've been like exploring lately, like tantra and like some of these other things?
Yeah, of course. I met this, there's like when I feel like when you follow your heart and you start to step into your place of destiny, I start to call it the like golden aura or like the gunny golden honey goo ooey gooey life. And that doesn't mean that, it's always been that everything's always honey golden ooey gooey, but making the most of this life. And I honestly feel like that's something that I've been blessed to be able to do. And while I landed here, I ended up living across the street from just this beautiful mermaid goddess devotee to yoga to tantra to her own development as a soul. And so um, part of our connection was we realized that in our other partnerships that we were missing like a deep level of intimacy and seeing our partner from the heart, and not just sexually, but like just a deep level of like, let's meet together and practice and see each other again today. So we've been studying with some teachers in the US called sky dancing, and it's based off of a tradition from this woman named Margot Anand. And she was Osho's Tantra practitioner in the temples in India. And so she's dedicated her life to Tantra as a practice and using the four methods, which is sound, breath, movement, and visualization. So, we meet each other doing different breath works, maybe different sounds, different mudras. And we meet each other at what we call the altar of love daily, and to open our hearts and to see each other as souls and see each other as life.
Really beautiful you sharing this, man. And as always, it's divine timing, like something that, I've been feeling really into. I mean, you've met Kat, right? We've been together now for like 15 years. And, it is a constant thing to bring to your awareness, right? Because just like anything in life that you experience every day, it can very quickly just become the norm. And with the norm also comes like complacency. It also comes like just like the subconscious mind, just treating it as if it's always been there, it's always going to be there, and it's just like the average thing, right? And something that I was talking to Kat about the other day, which I'm really excited. Again, we're talking about this is like some of the like deepest connections that I've had with people in the physical have been through eye gazing and like getting to like really see each other, see past each other, see me in them and them in me, and connect our hearts through breathing and also like visualization. And so this is something that, I brought to Kat and was like, hey, like I would really love to start intentionally doing this every morning. Like me and you, first thing, like seeing each other, feeling into gratitude for ourselves and one another, and just like starting the day, not only like feeling into gratitude for life and what this is, but also for like us, like what we've
Mm-hmm.
cultivated, what we are, um, and so, as you talk about this, it's just perfect timing, dude. And so it's really cool. These are things that I'm definitely going to start looking into what you just mentioned and look to learn more from this because I think it's really important. Again, not only with our intimacy partners, but I think it's a great place to start, right? It's these people that we've committed so much time and energy to, and sometimes they can be the people that we just take for granted. And it's not something that I desire to do. And I just think it's something that I observe in many relationships is it just happens very easily.
Mm. This it's I'm grateful that you're starting to open up, and I feel like intimacy in the way we're describing hasn't been taught. So we teach people how to pray, or we teach people how to eat well. We teach people like, hey, it's nice to go stretch and get strong and move your body. And what my partner Rachel, she went through a long marriage and the intimacy fell off. And what we observe in just our communities is that a lot of couples, just from our observation, are missing intimacy. And so it's like an art that has been lost.
Mm.
And I remember when we first met, one of our first connections was, I think I came up to you and I was like, let's take a couple deep breaths together. And I remember we all got into a circle and everybody was just like dancing and partying. And I said, it was at Burning Man. I was like, now everybody, let's just take a couple deep breaths. And after the deep breaths, I said, all right, now we're here. Remember like this moment, or like feel into it. Let's just be here as community and not get not get lost. And so I think that that moment connected us in a way that transcended the music, actually.
For sure, dude. And it kind of plays into what we're talking about, right? Like it is easy to get lost, right? It is easy to get lost, whether it's what people refer to as like the mundane things. And it's crazy, dude, to like talk to people like throughout my life, man. Like I remember like talking to people in like that had been in marriage and in relationships, and they would talk about their relationships as if they were a burden, dude. Like they would talk
Hmm.
about their partners and use crazy terms like a ball and chain, and like talk about their partners like they couldn't be fully like authentic with them. And oh, like I got to get away from the wife, and just these like crazy things, dude. And I was like, man, that's not what I have, and that's not what I want, and that's not what I think is like supposed like a relationship is supposed to be, dude. And you know, I think this goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. I think it's easy to lose yourself in a relationship. I think it's easy to lose the connection that we once had with that person, when we first met them and we were so in love and there was that connection, and then over time it just becomes something that is there, and without conscious awareness and conscious practice, which is what we're talking about, it can just fall to the wayside. And then you wake up 30 years later and you're like, man, what's going on, right?
Hmm.
And so I think this is like super important, man. And yeah, I'm definitely looking to talk more about that with you. And so, the community that you've attracted in Hawaii, what are some things that have inspired you that like you've seen from other people? And like what practices, has that brought into your life?
This place right here specifically, it's like this. I've referred to it, and this probably isn't accurate, but I've called kind of referred to it as like the last lifers. It's like people who don't want to be in the limelight. These are people I've known, at least in my community here, who do their practices without anyone ever knowing they do their practices. It's like people get up and they're doing their breath work, they're connecting through yoga, they're surfing daily, they're doing what feels right into their devotion, but they're not like making it known to the world. And it's very interesting compared to a lot of places in the United States I've been to, where there's all these coaches that, they want everybody to know what they're up to. And there's all these people who, are, this is myself included at certain times, who are doing something, and it's really they're underneath what they're doing is to make sure that people know they're doing it so that they have something to show the world that they're up to. And what I've really loved about this place is that no one really knows what I'm up to, and no one really knows what any of these people that live here are up to, but everybody up to something here. It's just they're doing it through the authentic expression of who they are. And that's been really like a relief,
Mm,
like a relief of I don't have to put on a mask for anybody. Yet everything that I'm like up to is what I want to be up to.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand that. It is and it becomes a jarring feeling, right? Like once you step into that space of like pure authenticity, no more masks. Like when the mask shows itself again, it's a very jarring feeling. It's like, whoa, what is that, dude? That doesn't feel good. Like that's
Hmm.
weird, man. And I've felt that, like, especially going back and forth, like between certain physical environments, right? And certain peak experiences. I've definitely felt that. But there is no greater feeling than authenticity, you being your true authentic self, and knowing as it's expressing itself like that, wow, man, like whether this gets accepted or not accepted by those around me, that doesn't matter anymore. It's not about that anymore. You know what I mean? It's just about this feeling and knowing that this is all I want. um yeah, dude, I resonate with that for sure.
And I think specifically some of the practices, right? Like I've been practicing surfing. So like my typical practices now, which I'm devoted to, are in the morning, like I said, connecting with Rachel, and we have our own methods and different things that work for us that we actually work with couples here. She has women and practices one of the main tantric women teachers here on the island, actually. And So we have our own practice in the mornings that we do that works for us, so that naturally has just attracted like kind of everything we've desired, very much not from like forcing anything. She's a decade older than me actually, which has been such a beautiful experience as well, to be with someone who's so rooted in themselves as a woman, knows what they want, knows who they are. And so then, that kind of has transferred over into the way that I even practice surf. So my practice in the morning, the way that we breathe together, the way that we pray together, it goes out, and now I'm with these people who surf, we have some of the best surfers in the world. And so there's these guys and some of my close friends, like they were ultra high achievers by all like notable measures that most people look at. And to kind of see how they have transferred that into the way that they show up into the ocean, through this dedication of consistent action over time. And so I think more so rather than like the techniques, it's the way that I see people approach things here. And it's really giving themselves up to what they're up to so fully every day. And it's the way that they're expressing their love, and that's been really beautiful to see, like that level of dedication, that level of just showing up consistently with no one ever giving them any praise and no one ever looking for that type of praise, but doing it because it's authentic to their heart.
That's what it is, dude. Right. And, speaking from my own perspective and my own experience in my life, it's like the ability to know and like hone that feeling of like what is authenticity, like what does that like feel like for me, like love, what does that feel like for me, like when I'm expressing from my most authentic loving place, like what is that, how does that feel, and
Mhm.
making a really deep connection with that so that it is very clear to me when I'm coming from that place. And then it no longer becomes about what I'm doing, because what I'm doing comes from that place organically. Right. And so that everything that I do is a beautiful dance from that place. Right. And so, like you
Mhm.
said, whether I'm rock climbing or whether I'm having a conversation with someone or whatever it is, it's a beautiful dance from that place. And again, that's not to say that, there are many moments where I'm not deeply rooted in that place. I get that. But if the intention is pure and the intention is to be in that place and come from that place, and that's good enough for me, man. And the more I do
Yeah.
that, the more consistently I'm able to come from that place, right? But there is something to be said for a physical environment, right? And so what I think about is this, right? I think about like, if you put a stem cell, right, like a stem cell in a petri dish, and you surround it by other cells, right? So you put a stem cell in a petri dish and then you surround it by a liver cell. Well, that stem cell becomes a liver cell, right? And so on and so forth. You can surround it, you can put it in an environment, and that cell will become whatever its environment is. And I think like within the spiritual world and within the spiritual community, we give so much importance to our inner world, which again is unbelievably important. It's one of the it's again, let's say if we had to say, probably the most important thing. But I think because we give so much importance to our inner world, we sometimes take away from the importance of our physical environment and what we're
Mhm.
surrounded by and where we are within this world. And I'm sure like you can attest to this based off what you've expressed so far. But there is something about being in a certain physical location within this world and becoming a part of that place, a part of that energy that is so beautiful and so amazing. And I've experienced this a few times in my life very consciously. And then I feel the difference when I leave that place and go somewhere else. Now, when I do leave that place and go somewhere else, I'm very grateful for it because the contrast is super important, right? It's like, the hermit living at the top of the mountain. It's like, yeah, not much is happening at the top of the mountain. And so, there's not much challenge there. And so it's nice to get some contrast. But tell me more about like what you have realized in regards to like your physical environment and placing your body in this physical environment and how that has affected your life.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's
Yeah.
really important too. You know, what you're speaking on is like I almost think it's one of the fundamental aspects of how we grow as humans. And to answer that question for me, you know, I used to place a lot of value, and I probably still do at sometimes on like what I was doing in the world and wanting to like be known for some level of accomplishment. And I think, you know, I did that, and I like felt still out of place. And now when I go into these beautiful environments, specifically right now, this place that I've chosen to live, honestly, like nothing that I used to care about is even here anymore. I'm just living the life that I love to live. I'm in a place that's so beautiful and feels so like nurturing to me. I'm like, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. And, you know, just for context to people who don't know, is like I used to trade stocks, and I used to trade stocks at a pretty high level and used to make a lot of money. And now I don't really have that level of like I don't have that desire to prove that, because ultimately what I wanted anyway was just to live in beautiful environments and to feel at peace. And I like now feel that that's my greatest value that I can like experience in this world. But yeah, I think to answer your question again, what impact it has living in these natural environments or these certain places have, it's that these worries and concerns kind of just fell by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not surrounded by it anymore. You live it like the contrast of like living in a big city surrounded by all of these people and all of these things that are putting so much importance on money and stuff like what clothes you're wearing and all of this like stuff, dude, compared to like living in a place where no one cares about any of that. That's not what they're focused on. And being able to like let go of these like social ideas of like what success means and any link to money or any link to fame or any link to any of this stuff. You brought something up that I think is a very common experience that people have. I had it. I know many people that have had it, which is I want to prove something. I want to prove my worth to myself ultimately, but it looks like it comes out like I'm trying to prove it to the world, but ultimately I'm trying to prove it to myself. And so I go out there and I accomplish all of these things. And then once I've accomplished these things that I thought would bring me everything I wanted, I realized, wow, it actually didn't. And then we
Mm-hmm.
ask deeper questions, right? And I know speaking for myself, those questions led me to a place that's completely opposite to what I was doing earlier in my life and what was important to me earlier in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a very beautiful thing. That's not to say that, what anyone else is doing is wrong or they shouldn't be doing that. It's just to say that ultimately, this idea of trying to prove anything is ultimately contrary to what we are, which is infinitely worthy beings, regardless of what we do. There is nothing we have to prove. That doesn't mean we can't work really hard at perfecting a skill. Like the Olympics are going on right now, right? So I think it's a great example, right? Like Olympics going on right now, and there is these people that I'm watching that have dedicated 12 hours a day for pretty much all of their life to perfecting this skill. And that's a really beautiful thing. What I'm talking about is not perfecting a skill, but if that journey of trying to be the best at, let's just say, speed skating is linked to your identity of worth and how worthy you are as an individual, that's what I'm talking about. There is a difference between being completely grounded and centered within yourself, understanding your infinite worth, and realizing that what you're looking to achieve in this skill is completely separate from that. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just very easy. And I know I experienced this in my life to put the two together and use skills, whether it's trading, whether it's your work, whatever it is, use these skills to try and do the impossible, which is become more worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's been really nice to not only recognize my infinite worth, but as soon as I did recognize that, then you obviously recognize everyone else's. And so observing people still looking to prove that, when I see that, there's just endless compassion because what I see is me. I see me when I was doing the exact same thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
and it is really beautiful to talk to people like yourself that have, achieved things that a lot of people have wanted to achieve, just like insane amounts of money, right? And share your truth now, which is, hey, dude, I had all this money and it's really not all it's cracked up to be.
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, what you're speaking to and like going back to this nature element, I've been listening to just a lot of different podcasts by psychiatrists recently. I've been listening to Dr. Gabor Mate's work, specifically as it relates to a plant called iboga. And anyway, in one of his podcasts, he was talking about how if you took a plant and you put it into a greenhouse, and in that greenhouse, 80% of the plants had deficiencies, you would probably state that the environment was wrong or something was off in that greenhouse. Now we live in this, and I think what you're speaking to is to this point is we are living in an environment where a lot of the world is still like living with these deficiencies, and it's showing up through stress, it's showing up through medications, it's throwing showing up through disconnect of the heart. And so really like having that distinction, what you're saying is like, why are you doing the certain thing rather than doing it from a place of like, I will be worthy if I go and win the gold medal. And, I feel as though this is an important part of our human soul's journey right now, which is why you're opening this podcast and why we're having this conversation, is because ultimately we both believe that the world is turning to a place where we should be living from the heart, or we can be living from the heart, not should be doing it, but we
Yeah.
right now have an opportunity to live from the heart.
And I think it's confusing for some people sometimes because, we'll just keep using this example of the gold medal, right? And like the Olympics, but it's just an example. I think it's confusing for people sometimes because, they'll see people that have won a gold medal and again become successful in their life in some way, whatever it is. And they're displaying these traits that we're talking about, right? Like looking to prove their worth. And so the illusion is that, oh, like in order to be successful or in order to attract what I truly desire, I must do the same thing. And so to play devil's advocate for a second, it's like, let's say that you want something really, really bad in your life. And there are two routes that you can go to get this. You can go the route of the belief that you are not enough. And so, in order to get this thing, you are going to use this belief that you are not enough to fuel your, let's just say, action in order to achieve this thing. Or you can go the route of already understanding that you are enough and looking to achieve this thing through your infinite worth that you already have. What I found in my life and what I've observed with a lot of people is that most of the things that we're looking to achieve through the lens that we're not enough aren't the same things that we would want to do if we knew that we were already worthy,
Mhm.
right? And that becomes really, I think, confusing for some people because I've spoken to a lot of people and I experience within myself. It's like, oh, I'm just not motivated. Like, what's going to motivate me now? Like, if I know that I'm perfectly fine and I'm content and I'm great where I am now, like, what's going to motivate me? And that's the interesting part. And that's the fun part of life because then you get to really figure out what really like lights your fucking candle, dude. And like
Mhm.
what really speaks to you and speaks to your soul rather than speaks to the lies that we've been telling ourselves that, oh no, I'm going to go do this thing to find my worth. Right. And, I've been witnessing you, on your surfing journey, and it's something that you'd never did before, right? And this is what I think about as I'm talking is like we start to explore these things that were never even within our reality before. And as we explore these things, they speak to our heart in a really beautiful way, and they have nothing to do with striving to achieve worth, and they have everything to do with just the beauty of the moment, the beauty of the journey, the beauty of learning, and so on and so forth. And it's just, for me, it's rock climbing. For me, it's hunting. For me, it's these conversations, right? These are
Hmm.
the things that fill my cup. And I get really excited for myself, and I get really excited for other people when I observe them allowing themselves to step into that space of, wow, I just really love this thing for no other reason than I just really love this thing. you know
Yeah. It's like the hard part about that for me is you have to forget about everything that you were taught and learned up to that point. So to really let go of these identities, and like for me, even the identity of a trader, that was so hard for me to let go of, like really to just be at peace with, I actually do not feel resonance with this. I do not need to do it. Every time I do it, I'm getting stressed out. But to actually like go through that process of separating myself from something that I did for over a decade was extremely challenging.
Mm.
And, like and I think that's where the conflict lies and be like, can I really trust that? Can I really trust that if this lights me up and follow my heart in this way, can I really do that? And I think that for me, life is just worth the experiment. Like it's worth me being like, let me just follow my heart and follow the things that light me up. And I did the other way, and I did things that I enjoyed along the way, but a lot of it was tense and stressful. And so now, if I just dedicate myself to doing the things that I love and that feel like I'm being called into, uh, why not?
hmm
Like
hmm
why not? Why not try that way? And so it's also, I feel like someone, you kind of have to invite somebody in because it's scary and you have to forget everything that you knew and you have to do it from a way that's out of your conscious mind and really following what's pulling you.
It is scary, dude. It is scary. And, you know, it asks many questions of us, right? And so it's like, you already mentioned one of those questions is like, and it again is rooted within our worth, our understanding of our worth. It's like, am I enough that if I follow what lights me up, and if I follow where my heart is leading me, am I actually enough that that'll attract everything that I desire? Which is
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate question, right? And that's a scary question to say yes to when you don't fully embody your worth. Because for a lot of us, as soon as we say yes to that and we start following that, our lifestyle changes dramatically. And that's
Dramatically.
scary, dude. That's super
Mm-hmm.
scary, man. When you're really comfortable with your lifestyle, when you're really comfortable with the amount of money you have, when you're really comfortable with the house that you have, when you're really comfortable with the friends that you have, and all of these different things. And I'm not saying you're going to lose those. All I'm saying is that if you're going to follow your heart, then ultimately you need to go where it's taking you, and you don't know where it's going to take you. And you have to have faith
Mm-hmm.
in that. And that can be super scary. I know it was scary for me at first. Saying that, once you follow it and you realize your worth, embody your worth, and realize how much you can trust your heart and that it will bring you all that you desire, then it flips. Then you're like, I can't, this is the only way I can go now, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if I end up homeless. It doesn't matter if I become this person that everyone else looks at as unsuccessful. None of that matters anymore because regardless of what it looks like to other people, what's happening within me is love, alignment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most beautiful thing ever. And that's scary as well, dude, when your family and your friends and the people around you start to judge you or label you or worry about you and all of these different things, right? The ability to go back within and say, I I'm going to keep following my heart, dude. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I love you and I appreciate you, and I hope that you're still here as I continue to go through this journey, but you just don't understand what I understand right now.
Hmm.
And I don't mean that in a way that like you're dumber than me or anything like that. All I'm saying is like when I say that you don't understand what I understand right now is I am living my life. I am living my truth. And sometimes it's hard for other people to understand my truth, and to connect to that. And that's okay. And so I'm really glad you brought that up because it is scary, dude. And
And
yeah, go.
no, and I was gonna say, and it's not just hard for others to understand my journey, it also is hard for me to understand my journey. I'm
100%.
like, holy shit, what the hell? Like that's that, and like I feel like you're talking to such great, like it's like I had this my first picture I ever saved in my iPhone over a decade ago was actually a picture of Hanalei. Didn't realize this until I moved here. And I like dreamed about living this life, man. Like I knew I was worthy of living the life I'm living now. But when I was doing and having and experiencing like everything that I thought was going to create that life, I was studying with a teacher in New Zealand at one of the leading mystery schools in the world called Haydn. And I was telling him, I was like, I feel like everything's dissolving around me. Like I'm like, I can't hold on to any of it. And he said, you know, you have to first turn to goo so you can go through the eye of the needle.
Mm.
And so what I took with me here was essentially nothing. And so that process of like that me being scared was like, wow, I can't control it now. Like everything that I thought, like I'm starting to lose what I like was attached to. And now I have to sit with my aloneness and my real sense of worth, my real sense of worth. And so, you know, not just being misunderstood by others, but kind of like not understanding the self while the soul and while my heart and while I was going through the process and still am.
It's like the illusion of control. It's like I lived most of my life under the illusion that I was controlling what was happening around me, and that's what was keeping me safe and well. And then anytime there was the illusion of, and anytime I was faced with the truth of, hey, I'm actually not in control, that was super scary. But as soon as I was able to embody the fact that I am life, and so whatever life brings me, I'm bringing myself. And so why would I be afraid of myself? Right?
Mhm.
Then everything just opened up, like you said, right? There was no more need to try and control anything under the illusion that I could. Right? It was just like, all right, cool. Like, let me just let go. And at first, the letting go was scary, but then it became the opposite, dude. It became the most freeing thing I could possibly do in a moment. Just completely let go and have faith. Um, and now sometimes it's like my mind even like questions the amount of faith I have. It's like, dude, you have way too much faith. Like you need to question things more. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, dude, you just don't question anything anymore, dude. You just have faith. I'm like, well, yeah, like, um, but yeah, dude. So, you've brought up a couple times, like, kind of hinted towards, things that you did in your past life and stuff. And so, like, when you look back at your life, and I'm sure there's lots, but like, what comes up for you when I ask you, like, what are the moments or experiences that most shaped, like, your awakening or transformation?
Mhm. Hmm. You know, the I had a gold medal moment, and the gold medal moment was like this. It like simultaneously brought me to the biggest collapse of my life. And you hear about this from people, but just everything I was working through for in the stock market, and like I was a part of an organization that had just started teaching like 1,000 people as well. It's just like it was like 10 years of just like right there. Everything was right in front of me, and the resources were coming in, and the recognition was coming in. And that same week, I just had this life changing week in the market. You know, I had was making over six figures a day actually for over 5 days in a row, and I was just like, "Holy shit, this is insane!" And I was 26 years old at the time, and I was like, "Okay, I know there's something more than this now." And I went to Joe Dispenza, and I went to like there thinking that I was gonna like amplify all of my abundance, uh, and then from there, I never did any psychedelics before or plant medicines, but I was just like, okay, like I know that there's some things that I'm dealing with that I've got to go take care of. And I felt like I finally had the spaciousness and opportunity to do it. So I went to Joe Dispenza for a week, and then I went to the jungles of Belize for 2 weeks. And man, it was the craziest thing. I just realized I was living in an absolute illusion. And no matter how much more I would make, no matter how much more I did, I would never be happy. And that way. And so I go to Joe Dispenza in Belize, and I come back, and you know this story. I come back, and that week, I literally, all I know how to do is I was having an identity crisis. I literally just started to dress up as a clown in Austin, Texas, you know, and this isn't a joke. Like I was having such an identity crisis of like working with Joe Dispenza and doing things that were connecting to my heart, that I start to look at myself and was like, wow, I'm I'm a clown. Like I'm gonna just like I felt like a clown, like sitting behind the desk all day to no end, trying to make money to no end, like finishing work and going to cope through any way I possibly could. And so that moment really was this like breaking point for me. And I've kind of always been pretty radical in my beliefs and the way that I move. So as soon as I was like had a little glimpse of the life I was living and like where it was gonna lead me, I just hit the eject button and trusted where it was going to take me. But it was like this 2 month like condensed period of like ultimate everything I worked to everyone being like, this dude is the craziest guy in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story, dude. It really just lights my heart up, dude, every time because I just think it's one of the most beautiful things of like kind of going back to what I said before, you in a way just like coming out into the world, you were fully accepted in one mask. Then you put on another mask, which is the clown mask, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now just not accepted by so many people that you were completely accepted by with the other mask. They were completely happy with that mask, even though that mask was not fulfilling for you, did not make you happy, was not like your true self. And then you put on this other mask and they're just like, what is happening? Are you okay? What's going on? And you're just like, actually, I'm great, dude. Like, I'm really
Uh-huh.
good, man. And I
And
thought
that, but
that,
it was challenging. It was so
oh, I'm
hard though,
sure.
you know, to like get that much. And I remember like there was a time I was just sitting on the side of South Congress, like a month after making like $1 million in a couple of weeks, just banging this drum with a clown outfit and just thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, I'm happy. Like I'm finally like I'm like, this is such a relief. And like it was just like the like you're saying, like that process though, like having all these people who loved and respect me, saw me as a leader, and then go into this other place and starting to tell people like, hey, that route isn't going to lead you to your joy.
Mhm.
And being and then everyone saying like, you know, stay away from me, what's wrong with Josh, he fell off the deep end, like what are you doing, like, you know, if you did this for a couple more years you would never have to do anything ever again.
Mhm. But again, I mean, you know it, right? Like everyone is doing the best they can with the awareness they have in every moment. And so in that moment, they couldn't see it. They couldn't see it,
Mm-hmm.
dude. Just like you couldn't see it at a certain point in your life, right? Just like I couldn't see it, right? And I'm 100% sure there's many things I still can't see, dude, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so, but I really appreciate you sharing that, man. One of the most beautiful things that I have to say about you to everyone that I share about you to is just like the radical authenticity that you continue to like display. I know you've always displayed that to me. I know you've always displayed that when I've been around you. And so that's who you are to me, someone who is not afraid. And even if you are afraid, committed to sharing your authentic self with those around you and sharing all of your stories. I think there are a lot of people that don't share all of their stories, you know,
Hmm.
and I really admire you for being open to sharing all of your stories. And when people do that, that is a beautiful power. It's a superpower that changes the world, man, because we're speaking to so many people, and there are stories that people aren't sharing that connect to certain people that are listening, and they'll never get that connection that could possibly change everything for them, that could give them the awareness that we're talking about to now realize something that would change everything. And so I really
Hmm.
admire you for that. And I'm really, again, I just say thank you for always sharing all of your
Hmm.
stories, dude.
Yeah,
um,
brother. Thank you.
Something that comes up for me is the last time I saw you was at Burning Man, and going off your authenticity and sharing everything with me, we had a moment outside one of the tents. You were in a relationship at that point, and then that relationship was going through some challenges in that moment. And you came up to me
Hmm.
and you shared some stuff with me. And I bring that up to ask you the question because I think this is a beautiful question, that a lot of people really want, like, to hear. Is like what are some lessons that you've learned about loving another person without losing yourself?
Hmm. Loving another person without losing yourself. Hmm. You know, it really circles back to everything we've been discussing so far. When you're doing things to get love, whether it be trading, whether it be looking and working out in the gym, whether it be studying to help people, but if it's like as a pursuit to fill the void of maybe love that I didn't get or I didn't feel was enough, I guess, as a kid. And so for me, like what I've learned in love is that as soon as I'm dependent on another to fill a place in me, then I'm fucked, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
like ultimately it's gonna it's gonna come back around. And I'm not gonna I'm gonna end up confused. And so it's really like having things that anchor me, and the heart is a muscle. So I think having these openings where you love outside of you, love another, love these partners, these beautiful people that come into your life, and until you realize you don't need their love to feel whole, or until you don't need their love so I could feel whole, is I don't think I could actually show up for love. And so I was still playing the same games of love that I was playing in all my other areas. So like as the my transformation has happened, it's like the same game I was playing in finance was the same game I was playing in love, and the same game I was playing with the way and reasons why I would probably be working out. And so taking off all those masks, it's been a whole process, but it's like once you take down one mask,
Mm,
then these other masks are going to show you where you're playing the same game and where I was playing the same game. And so slowly I've been able to like look at them now from this lens, and for the first time be like see it not just from the story of like I don't have a story, but like wow, like that's not me.
mm,
And it's only happening now in my life where I'm like, wow, that wasn't me. And I don't have to identify with those stories anymore. And I have enough uh, loving awareness to
mm,
know that I can love myself first, and that the ones I love are just going to get my love and
mm.
receive me because that's what I'm here to give you.
You know, it's so beautiful. I resonate with that so deeply. That was the same realization I had in my relationships, you know, and that was why something very consciously when I started dating Kat, you know, I would tell her out loud. And at first she thought it was weird, but um, later on, she started to understand why it was so important. Was like, I'd tell her, look, I don't need you. I choose you every day, every moment. I choose to love you. I don't need you.
Mhm.
And I would say this to myself and I would say this out loud. And because I had realized in my past relationships that was what was happening, man. I was trying to fill this illusory hole of worthiness inside of me with them. And it never went well. It never ended well. It never felt great. Um, and one of the other things that kind of comes up as you were talking was the idea of like, I'm not this person or that's not me. Something I want to talk to for the people listening is like something that's really important for me was like, you don't need to answer that question. Meaning that, like, just because you realize that, hey, that's not me, you don't need to then straight away answer, well, then who am I? You may never get to answer that question, and that's okay. You may not know who you are, and that's okay. Knowing
Mhm.
what you're not is the most important thing, right? Like knowing what you're not is a beautiful place to start, dude. And, just veering away from what doesn't feel aligned and just exploring new things. And you'll start to realize when things are aligned. But, the idea of asking yourself, like, who am I? Like you can answer that question, but every answer you give is just going to be a perspective. And no answer you give is ultimately going to be what we like to call like universal truth. It may feel good, it may feel loving, it may feel aligned, but ultimately we are beings of eternal seeking, not seeking from a place of emptiness, seeking from a place of abundance and infinite worth, but still seeking, right? And I think sometimes like the mind wants to have an answer for everything. Otherwise, it feels unsafe and scary. And I think that's one of the main questions is like, well, if I'm not this, who am I? And I just want to share with people listening, like, you don't need to answer that question. Can you feel completely whole and worthy not knowing who you are and getting excited about the fact of like, all right, well, if I don't know who I am, like, let's go explore, dude, and find out and continue to ask yourself that question, never needing the answer. Just like we're talking about with this relationship, don't need this person to feel love. I don't need to know who I am in order to feel safe. I don't need to know who I am in order to feel completely whole. Don't need that. And if you do need that, then again, you're going to find this mask and this role and that identity in order to give you this false feeling of security and safety that ultimately is illusory and fleeting, you know?
Yeah, and I was living like part after the trading journey, I was seeking more of a truth, and I was living with this guy named Anurag, and he did a lot of cool stuff. But one of the things that he gave me that I take with me is he would always like give me these amazing transmissions, and then he'd be like, "And I'm full of shit." And so like he would have these rooms of like hundreds of people like just like sharing, and he would be like, like everything I say today, we live in a times and we live in a thing that grows. So like what I bring forward with you today, and whether it be the relationship from the past where I was like, this is the one or this is the person, it's like ultimately I was full of shit.
Yeah.
And it's like not a negative thing, it's like more of a reminder that you really don't know. And as soon as I start to buy into like something that I think is the truth, usually uh is not ever the truth.
Yeah. It's
And
like we can only do what we have with the awareness that we have. And our awareness is constantly changing based on our experiences and all of these beautiful things. And to like hold ourselves or to hold anyone else to anything, whether it was 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago, and call it like, dude, what do people call it? Like, oh, you're not trustworthy, or like, you don't stick to your word, and like all of these crazy things, dude, that we use to like shame people for changing their minds. It's like, bro, what are we talking about, man? Like, this is crazy, dude. You know?
yeah, it's
Um,
yeah.
yeah, go.
No, I just think it's so important is, like you said, to see what you're not, and just to know that you're bringing forth the best of like who you are right now, and that's always going to change too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
everything that we're talking about now, if we were to hop on this conversation again 2 years from now, I guarantee you there would be a lot that would change, and our perspectives would change, and some of the things that we're like being like, it's this, or some of the key points. It's gonna
Mhm.
evolve in the way that we evolve.
Our wording will evolve. That's another really cool point. Is like even if our perspectives stay the same as we continue to deepen within our experience, the way it expresses comes out differently. It has to, right, in order to keep up with our new awareness. Um, and so, yeah, man, just remaining open to change, knowing that it is infinite, and knowing that we're going to continue to change. Everything's going to change, and allowing that within
Mm.
ourselves, and allowing that within everyone around us. Um, and so, like, when I finish off these episodes, I have three questions that I ask everyone. And so the first question you've touched on a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway and see what comes up for you. So, what personal practices or what personal practice has been the most transformative for you?
Right now, it's the practice of meeting my beloved and the ways that life wants us to meet in the I don't even know how to describe it. I would need a whole episode for that. But the practice of
Yeah.
meeting my beloved in the
Yeah.
morning and creating worlds together and seeing what's true for us right now
Mm,
is really changing me, like on a DNA level, it feels like.
that's beautiful, dude. That's beautiful. Um, Second question. How do you stay open and loving when the world can sometimes feel heavy and cruel?
Prayer,
Hmm.
prayer, and just continuing to pray for one of my prayers is always to pray for hidden delights or unexpected delights all day. Like I'm just like, all right, God, if this is real, like if my prayer and my life and my energy is creating this, like I want to be surprised constantly. And so I think in those moments, just keep praying and like you said, having so much faith
Mm,
that
mm.
just staying and holding on to faith.
Yeah, I mean, because if it's a choice, I'd rather choose faith than fear, and it is a
Mhm.
choice. So I'd rather choose faith than fear. And sometimes it's hard to do that, but when you can, I encourage you to do so. And something else that I hear from what you're saying in that answer is also like, man, bring it back to playfulness, man. Like, bring it back to excitement, bring it back to childlike wonder. You know what I mean? When
Mhm.
things still like feel too heavy, get rid of that heaviness just by realizing like, hey man, let's play again, dude. Like show me something crazy, dude. You know what I mean?
Like if
Um
it's all the cherry on top, like which is now I'm realizing that all of this is just the cherry on top.
yes.
Like I
Yes.
want the fireworks, like I want the confetti, like I want
Yeah.
the go down the street and then someone just like it's like pop, and you're just like whoa.
Yeah. Exactly, dude. Exactly. Last question. If you could speak to your younger self, what loving wisdom would you like to leave in their hearts?
Hmm. Look within before you look without.
Mm. Appreciate you, man. Thank
Appreciate
you
you.
very much for just being the light that you are. Thank you for continuing to share all of yourself with everyone. I know for me, it has been very inspirational and beautiful. Um, and I just encourage you to continue to do so and just keep following that heart, dude.
Hmm.
I'm just so joyful to be a part of your experience, to continue to watch your experience unfold as you just go deeper and deeper into your heart, dude. So I love you.
Thank you so much, brother. I love you too. Looking forward to seeing your journey and listening to other guests who you get the opportunity to have conversations with.
Thank you, brother. All right, we'll talk again soon.
Mahalo.